Good morning, beautiful people. I thought I would bring you a message outside from my beautiful residence. I was sitting out having my coffee and having breakfast this morning, um, just admiring the hummingbirds at the hummingbird feeder and all these beautiful flowers in this garden that I have outside my front door. And I was thinking about how much easier it feels to carry the weight of the world right now when I'm outside, when I'm listening to the birds, feeling the sunshine, looking at the clouds. Everything feels connected. There feels to be more hope. And there's so much information that's trying to reach me when I'm in the natural world. And I decided, yep, it's time to bring a message from outside today. I've only given a message to another person once outside an outdoor setting, and it was one of the most beautiful, powerful readings I ever did for someone else. So I'm really kind of excited to bring you all my first group message from outside. So we're just going to tap into love energy. We're going to ask this energy that I know to be creator, universe, God, to come forward and bring us messages that can help us to build what comes next. We know that we're in a part of our history where separation and ego and fear are running amok. And we know that in order to shift this energy, we need to start thinking about our own power and our own divinity differently. We also know that we need to start thinking about the connectedness of each individual soul differently. And we need to build structures. We need to build communication systems. We need to build agreements. We need to build everything from this foundation of love. So today we're going to tap into that to find out a little bit more what love looks like and what we should be integrating into all these new systems that we need to be creating and bringing to life in this moment so that they're ready for us as we move into the next phase. So I'm tapping directly into that love energy, and we are going to talk specifically about what love looks like and give a little bit more detail. So this is coming from directly from spirit now. So when we think of love as this all-encompassing force that is the bedrock of existence, that's the bedrock of life, how can we define it? What are some of the different ways we need to look at love so that we understand it clearly? Because it's fine and dandy to say we're building the next iteration of human experience on love, but we need to know what that looks like. We know what that feels like and sounds like. So today we're going to give you some of those definitions. Love has boundaries and expectations. And that means when we see someone going off into this other way of existence that's based on fear. So that could be fear of the unknown, that could be fear of differences, that could be fear of individuation. And that's what we're going to talk about today is this fear of people having individual expressions of divinity, individual expressions of what it means to be love in motion. There are people out there, and a lot of them that you're seeing right now that are causing havoc have this fear. They have this fear that of seeing love, seeing God, seeing Creator, seeing divinity show up in ways and in identities that they cannot embody. So they have this disconnect in their way of thinking that says, hey, if that is not me, if I don't identify with this individual, then that means that God, creator, love cannot exist within that individual because I know that I'm divine. So if I can't identify with this other person, therefore they must be less than divine, which is not true. And this fear is springing from the fact of, okay, if I'm identifying this individual, this unique soul, this unique, beautiful creature as having a divine light in them, but I can't see a this for that, an exact comparison within myself, there becomes this fear that I am less than, that I do not hold this divinity, that I am not as divine as I thought I was, and therefore we need to act activate all of our protection mechanisms around that belief, that understanding, this kind of disconnect, to crush, to silence, to put out that spark within that other person. So the truth of the matter is that everyone is a unique expression of God. When we move away all the fear, when we move away all the ego, when we move away all of the noise of the outside world that is based in fear, telling us who we should be, telling us how we should maneuver and how we should navigate through life, if we're just able to step into that flow and work with the Creator without us, outside us and within us, that's when that true divinity sparks forward. And everyone is going to have a unique expression of that. And that doesn't mean that and our expression that's we are carrying is any less significant. It just means that one body cannot hold all the expressions of divine light and love. One community cannot hold all the expressions of divine light and love. One group of people cannot hold all the divine expressions of one light and love. So when we see people who are trying to put out the light, the spark, the beauty, the divine expression of Creator in other groups of people, that is them going off the rails and following this fear. This is them following this fear that because someone else is worthy, that makes them somehow less than. And we need to rein that back in. And we rein them back in by first helping them stabilize in their own light, and then see how their light is bold and beautiful and brilliant, but without these other divine expressions of love, that their light is powerless. That they need to be able to connect into all of these other expressions in love to actually get anything done. So we think about it in an activist setting. If all of us are pushing forward and we're on the front lines and we are making people uncomfortable and we're making people reflect and we're kind of pushing, right? But there's no one to help reel us back and say, okay, we need to take a pause. If there's no one outside us watching when temperatures and the friction has become too much for people to process what we're trying to get them to feel uncomfortable about, then we just get into this argumentative state where no one's listening to each other. So if we're all doing the work of pushing the boundary of making people uncomfortable, but there's no one monitoring the actions and saying, hey, we've got those folks who we need to hear our message, we've got them at a really critical pressure point, we need to now pull it back and let them sit with that information. If there's no one doing that, then everything kind of explodes and nothing gets resolved, because we just push everyone over their limits, and no hearts are changed, no minds are changed. So in that specific example, there are two different types of people who need to be doing their own individual thing in order for the change to happen. Also, if we're all on the front lines every single day, spreading love, spreading light, maybe we're not doing that confrontation piece. Maybe we're just doing the showing up and being present, singing, gathering, showing what joy looks like and unity looks like in action. But we're doing it in the hot sun all day, and there's no one on the back and in the background doing the part of making us food and feeding us and nurturing us and welcoming us back home at the end of the day. That is out of order as well. So just in that very specific way of spreading love, of this very specific way of pushing against that ego and that fear and separation, there are many, many roles that and ways that divinity is showing up through different people who have a different calling. So our job really is to help people stabilize in their own divinity, and then see how that they are not as able to do their work unless they are seeing the beauty and the joy and all these other individuations is the word I keep hearing, but these individual embodiments of light. So call people back, But when we're calling people back, realize that we can't make them see the beauty outside themselves until they're really able to own and see the beauty within themselves, because that is where that fear is coming from. That fear is coming from this place where they don't believe they have value, where they don't believe that they have this divine spark within them. Therefore, anyone else who's claiming that and owning it and living it with pride and joy, they're going to silence. So remember, we need to help them find their individual spark, their individual light, so that they can intrinsically start connecting with all the other pieces of this divine light that's going to help them move through the world. So I'm going to leave that with you with love and light. There was a lot there, but hopefully you can find the piece that's speaking to you today as you continue on your path to help us move the story of love and connection into the foreground. Instead of it having us bubbling in the background, ready to move forward, let's make the story of love louder. So thank you for joining me, and I'll be back for another message soon.